Hello React Native developers, what is going on? William here, recording from beautiful Zurich, Switzerland. Today I'm joined with Jonny Burger. Jonny is one of the most talented indie hacker that I know in the space of React Native. And so we've met through Twitter, but you actually also live in Zurich. And yeah, I really wanted to have you on the channel because I think what you're doing is very, very cool. So yeah, I'm so glad to have you here today. And yeah, maybe like if you could introduce yourself in a few words.
Yeah, thank you, William. It's really big honor to be on your show. And yes, about myself, I would say like I'm trying to make my own apps, and this is like the end goal of mine. But for now, I'm not quite there yet, and I like split my time between freelancing and my own apps. And I'm also very active on Twitter, try to post my process, be very open with what I do, and it's also how I found you. And then we've tweeted out a few animations at each other, I would say. And
yes, that's what is very interesting, is that we are very similar in many ways. So we are both independent developers. We actually have in Zurich, I mean in Switzerland, we actually have the exact, how do you call it, social status, like this Einzelfirma thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is interesting because it means also like we can support each other. So if I have questions, for instance, with like some paperwork, or like we can help each other out. And in fact, we have the same. The woman that is handling our file or whatever is the same person, right?
Yeah, it's true. Like we are both in the process of setting up our own companies, getting properly set up with the government for being a freelancer and doing our independent work. And we both love animations and have found each other on Twitter, so it's so funny that we are so close to each other as well.
Yes, so both independent, both working with React Native. We both have like taste for 60 FPS gestures and animations, and therefore strong interest in React Native Gesture Handler and React Native Reanimated. And also same where I'm also doing some freelancing. I also like try to work on some other stuff on the side. So yeah, it's pretty funny that. So I'm glad we found each other. So that's
totally.
And we are recording this from basically the co-working space where yeah, you're basically like renting this place to work basically.
Yeah, pretty much. This space in Zurich where I just have my own desk. So here's where I am all the time if I work. Here's where I put my screen. My laptop is anyway broken, so I only work from this space.
Oh, just the screen of your laptop is broken?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh shit, what happened?
You know, this could turn into an Apple rant, but as you know, these screen cables are too short, and then if for some reason the screen won't turn on if you open the lid of your laptop too much.
All right. Oh shit. Okay, so you need to take it to the Apple store, but then you have no laptop to work with.
Yeah. Then they might take it away from me for a week and.
Or more, actually.
Yeah. And what am I gonna do then?
Yes. So what's your plan?
My plan is for now to just not repair it, so I can code React Native every day, still without any break.
Okay. Oh wow, that's and so you have also a screen at home where you can.
Yeah, but it's not such a nice one. So.
Okay.
Usually I'm here all the time,
yeah.
And today is a Saturday, so nobody else is here, so it's perfect.
Yeah, it's
that
cool
we can record it here
for ourselves. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, for me, I also work in a co-working space. Actually, a bit different because some of these co-working spaces have like a public cafe where anyone, which I guess is pretty typical from even like I think in the States it's the same, where you have the co-working space, but then you have also like a cafe where people can just come and so I don't have like a membership. I just go to the cafe to work, and yeah, I mean there's so many places that have flourished in Zurich. Now there's so many of these places in Zurich. It's pretty amazing, and I've met so many people. So I go to the Impact Hub in near Limmatplatz, and it's amazing. I mean, yeah, the people you meet, it's really great. So yeah, I mean Zurich is. I mean now I guess it's becoming a bigger and bigger city, but it's not such a big city, and like the number of like co-working space that have opened in the, let's say, past 2 years is just incredible.
Yeah, totally. This one is also pretty new, and there's another one which just opened and they had like a promotion. Now you can be here for 2 months for free, so I also checked that one out. And there's Impact Hub, Bureau Theory, Trust Square, and there's like so many of them have opened, and I think that's really good for the community. And I must say there are a lot of React Native developers in Zurich, and this is what I really love about it. Like the only city in Zurich where really it is so densely populated.
So that's amazing because and this you need to I guess to introduce me to your React Native developers friends, because on my side, and maybe it's because of me working more on Impact Hub in Limmatplatz, I haven't met so many React Native developers actually. So I didn't realize the community in Zurich was so vibrant, but I'm really glad to hear that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And actually, I think we both had a pretty interesting weekend last week. I was at AppJS Conf. It was really amazing, finally meeting the people from the React Native community, but also like getting up to date with some of the latest developments. So it was really interesting. But I think you had also a pretty interesting weekend. I saw on Twitter. But
yeah, it's true. I was at a hackathon in Winterthur last weekend. We didn't really have a specific idea going into it. I just said to my friends, "Oh, I just want to make a cool animation. This is my only requirement." And then I told my friends, "You can decide what the topic of the app is going to be." And
yes, and you just do the animation.
And I just did the animation. I did try out the Reanimated bottom sheet one,
yes.
And we built some kind of object recognition app where you just take a picture of something, tells you what it is.
So how did you even, who's organizing such a hackathon? I don't even know, and how do you find out about such an event? And did you decide to go with some people, or then you meet people on site and you're like, oh, we'll make it? How does this work?
So the first hackathon I knew about it and that I actually participated in was Hack Zurich.
Oh,
this
wow.
is the
biggest
hackathon in Europe with over 500 participants. So this really spreads around, and you know about this one because this one is really big and really amazing. And past fall I actually also won with my flatmates the audience award at Hack Zurich, also with a React Native app, which had some animation. If you want one tip for winning a hackathon or winning an award at a hackathon, then it is to use animations. So focus on a good UI.
Expo and gesture and reanimated.
Exactly. It's that has worked out really well for me so far.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. So your roommate is also a React Native developer. That's
absolutely.
So cool.
Shout out to Lucas.
But then, so the one from last weekend, did you go alone or?
No. So I was going with two friends. One other guy is also a React Native developer. I kind of introduced him to React Native.
Okay.
We did our first app, his first app. We did together, and while the other guy was doing the backend. We all worked in a company together for 1 month. just for 1 month. Then unfortunately the company went bankrupt.
Okay.
But we stayed friends.
So it was like a startup or?
Yeah, it was a blockchain startup here in Zurich.
Okay.
And as you know, they come and go.
Wow. That's amazing.
But yeah.
So it's the three of us. You go there, and so basically it's like you're a team.
Exactly.
And then you said, okay, I will do the whole gesture animation. You guys you do what, like you say, like you can decide what you want to do. And who's organizing this?
This was organized by the Entrepreneur Club in Winterthur.
Okay.
I would say this is also like there's also an Entrepreneur Club in Zurich who is doing a lot of good things. In general, the startup support that you get and the community is really big in this area.
Okay. And then also, how did the weekend go?
Yeah, it did not start off well. We just learned like the day before that it is a requirement that you have to do one of the challenges that one of the sponsors is giving you. So that kind of closed many opportunities,
Okay.
and we were not used to that. So the first day we just said, okay, let's just come back tomorrow and then decide on something, because we were thinking 4 hours and could not come up with an idea.
What was the theme or challenge? What was the challenge?
There were 4 different challenges you could pick from. Many of them, I must say, were rather boring, like was sponsored by like compressor companies or pump companies. But then we just said, we don't have to do the most revolutionary app or reinvent or do something really creative. What if we just take this challenge that the compressor company gave us, which was like to create an app for their employees where they can take pictures and tag them and ask other employees questions about, for example, the compressor. And we just did that, and we made some nice animations, gesture handler, bottom sheet, reanimated, make everything rotate and fade and slide. And that was enough to impress the jury to give us the best tech award, apparently.
You get the best tech award. Wow. And what did you win for that?
For that, we won like a drone with a controller.
Okay.
As well as a Steve Jobs biography, which I find funny, and a Google Home Mini, and a flight voucher. So it was
a what?
A flight voucher. So like the whole team, we can do a trip.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, that's
so
cool. And was it 3 days? 3 days? So Saturday, Sunday, or Friday to Sunday, or?
These hackathons usually they start on Friday evening.
Friday.
Just after people finish their work,
so
they say.
So basically, that's when you found out what the challenge is, and then you were like, okay, let's sleep on it. And then the next day you said, okay, we do this thing for this company, and what was the app doing exactly?
You could take a picture, and it would automatically pre-tag it for you. With the objects that it recognized and the text that it recognized.
What do you use to do the recognition?
For this, we just use the Google Cloud Vision API.
Yeah. So, okay. Is it the one from Firebase or the one from Google Cloud? Oh.
I'm not sure. I think it was just the Google Cloud Vision API. Okay. There's also like a difference between the pre-trained and the API that you can train yourself, but since we only had 40 hours of time, we just go with the pre-trained one and try to get it done.
And what about using like ARKit or to do the recognition? And how does it? So if you use the API, how do you? Like, I have no idea how this works. So you need to send pictures to the Google API, and Google is sending you results back. Is that how it works? Or?
Yeah.
And then how do you, if that's how it works, how do you make sure like you can send pictures in a performant manner? Like how do you take the picture? How does this work?
Well, in a scope of just 40 hours, and actually since we had no ideas at the at the start, we only had like one day, only the whole Saturday. We had no time to think about using ARKit or making it performant. The app was not fast. I think it took like 7 seconds until it gives you a result, and we kind of only implemented the happy path and focused on the design and the UI. I think this is what you have to do at a hackathon to get into the finale, to let your engineer mind behind you and just say, okay, we hack this together, and hopefully we will be able to make something nice in one day.
Yes. Okay. And all right, cool.
Yeah. How was App.js Conf? I must say I must like rewatch the conference. Like it was at the same time as the hackathon, but it seemed like so much cool stuff was coming out. Presentations about Reanimated, this Bob build tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there's talks which I've seen from the conference which I want. So now all the videos are online, which I would like to rewatch, and some of the talks which I missed, which I would like to watch. Yeah, that was really interesting to meet everyone from the community. That was finally now it's like the people you interact with on Twitter and so on. Like finally you. It's like people you've met. It's kind of a very nice feeling, but it was really great to learn more about the Expo roadmap, which I think like really makes sense. So Evan Bacon gave a presentation on React Web, which was really cool and also very entertaining. As you can imagine, he's a very entertaining guy. And
his tutorials are amazing. His YouTube is like it's like a tutorial how you use like a stack navigator, something really simple, and then he puts a lot of jump cuts in it and makes it really more entertainment than a tutorial. That's
absolutely, yeah. No, it's
really awesome stuff.
Yeah, I really love so the React Native Web. I'm really excited about. I think React Native Web, to me, really makes a lot of sense. There is the obvious use case of reusing code, but when you build a mobile app, and also promoting the value of the technology. So if you're trying to sell React Native to someone non-technical, suddenly you can say, but also like it's a web app as well. I think it's like the value proposition is quite interesting. And especially, I don't know about you, but I'm talking more and more to non-technical people, which are like tired of apps, which are like, I want an app, but also like I want something like a web app. So I think it's cool. But what I'm really excited about with React Native Web is now every time I do React Web, I'm like, because you have all this baggage from, how do you say? Because the web development model is so old and you have so much baggage because everything is like, you have infinite backward compatibility, where with React Native you have only what you need basically. And that's what I'm really missing at the moment when I do web development. Is I don't want 16 box model display, or I want I only want to use like Flexbox or Grid, and so that's why I'm really excited about React Native Web. They announced Expo custom build, which I think really makes sense, and like the use cases which were outlined, I think make perfect sense. And for instance, if you have like your Expo app, nice and easy, but you want to introduce payment, and then suddenly it's like, okay, it's becoming like a completely different project just for like this feature, just because you need to put your credential in the app. So I think that's a really exciting the push to TypeScript. I think that also makes perfect sense. I used to be. Did you use Flow?
I did not use Flow.
Okay.
I now try to add Flow types to a library that I'm making, but that's the only. And I just started using TypeScript this year.
Oh, cool.
All before I was not using any types. But yeah, I totally agree with you that React Native Web makes so much sense, because so much code that you are writing today as a React Native component maps one-to-one to the patterns that you use in web. Alone that you use the same CSS properties, that you write the layout in the same way as you do in web, that view maps to a div perfectly.
Yeah, right. And every time you have to do display flex, content box, you have to set all these defaults, for instance, and things like this, because every elements have different defaults and stuff like that. It's like so crazy.
Yeah, this is something to be. I think we have to be patient until it's really mature and we can use it flawlessly. But it's another good reason to bet on React Native now.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, that's interesting. How it's kind of like how the loop goes, where you have like React and then React Native, but suddenly it's like almost better to use React Native to do React Web. Like, it's just so crazy. But yeah, TypeScript. So I was a Flow user because of the. So when I switched to React Native, because of the Babel integration, and also I was using Flow as well because it was just a types annotations, and TypeScript was like this language which was like a type language, but now it's like treated. It's also just basically modern JavaScript plus type annotation. And then, so when they announced the Babel integration with TypeScript, for me it was like the killer use case to switch to TypeScript. And also now, basically since January, or maybe even before, but you can use ESLint on top of TypeScript, which for me is like the killer also use case. So now really you can use TypeScript without, basically you have zero trade-off. And it's really just like modern JavaScript code plus type annotations, which are done in TypeScript. So now I'm also like full all in on TypeScript and pretty happy about it.
Me too. I must say I refactored a lot of stuff to TypeScript this year, and this is what I'm going with now as well. I think I have like one project with 700 JavaScript files, which I'm now slowly converting to TypeScript. And ESLint is also, I'm still struggling a bit to get all rules to work nicely.
Are you using my ESLint plugin?
No, I'm using my own ESLint plugin. I think we both have our own.
But it's a React Native or a React project?
The project that I'm refactoring.
Yes.
Well, actually, it's a bit of a zombie where I put like the server and the React Native app and the website all into one repo, into different folders, and then I just cross import everything that I want to share. This kind of works well. Then React Native sometimes doesn't understand that the actual React Native app is not in the root, or if I want to change the Babel config or upgrade React only for the app, then it's a bit of a headache. But this is something that I don't regret.
Yeah, cool. I have a big code base in Flow, which I'm gonna migrate to TypeScript. I'm not sure. I have some ideas on how to do the migration. We'll see. It's gonna be some work. I'm gonna try to automatize most of the work. Let's see.
Do you use a code mod or something?
But like I think that would be one possibility, but I need to see if also it will require what will require more, like which path will take more work basically. So we'll see.
Exactly.
So this week we had some DMs on Twitter and you pinged me, and so funny because that's a topic we actually discussed at like in the coffee break at AppGS, but completely unrelated. You pinged me with a very simple, very elegant, but quite somewhat very powerful idea, which actually in the meantime you implemented. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit more? Like,
absolutely. So I should put a big disclaimer in front of it that this is probably not the biggest problem that Reanimated developers are facing, but
no, it is. It is the biggest. So? Because what? So which problems do you have when you write Reanimated code? So Reanimated, the only problem I would say with that makes the barrier to entry to React Native Reanimated high is because it's a different it's a different layer of abstraction to JavaScript. Mm-hmm. It makes things a bit harder to debug and so on. And so, for instance, yesterday I was writing some Reanimated code, and they had a mix, and you always, so in Reanimated you do some some operations which treat both animated values and numbers. It's always like you have some maybe an animated value and you do something with the width of the screen or whatever, like it's a mix of numbers, and sometimes you do operations on animated values and numbers and you forget, oh, this one is an animated value and I did a JavaScript division, but I should have used a divide function and so on. And because except for this problem, I think like the library is pretty like seamless to use. So I would say it might actually be the...
I think you have just mastered Reanimated and have ran out of bigger problems.
Okay. But okay, so tell me, what do you think are the problems when using Reanimated?
It's kind of, you cannot really avoid them, but I often struggle with Reanimated kind of breaking the principles of React, of that everything is just so declarative and you can separate it into different components, whereas in Reanimated I often find that I have to merge multiple components into one in order to make the animation work and to prevent the re-render.
Okay.
Like I think in Animated you are trying to prevent as much re-renders as possible in order to not drop any frames, whereas in React generally encourages you to say, okay, whenever you want something changed, then just re-render, change the whole state. But
I mean, just before we get to your very, very cool project, I have to say, so what I find interesting when doing Reanimated is that you push down, so Reanimated you declare to the native threads. And actually sometimes there is so much you can push down to the native thread up to the state management sometimes. So let's say I have a tab animation, so you can store the active states of the tab or everything in the animated, and then React doesn't even know, like there is not even a state like with active tab or stuff like that. And sometimes it's interesting to see how far actually you can push down things to the native thread, and you're like, is that like, it feels a bit, I wouldn't, a hack maybe, I don't know, but you're like, oh, I'm not following basically like the way of doing things in React, because I've basically pushed down everything that I could to the native thread.
So you like to put it into the Reanimated ecosystem more than you like to handle the state in Reanimated rather than React. It's like, this is a bit discomforting for me. I mean, ideally I would like to use the React principles as much as possible, but
no, that makes sense.
I must also admit that I don't yet have like the deepest understanding of Reanimated. So I will get better with that and maybe understand it.
But you are building something that is gonna, I think, tremendously help users of this library.
Yeah, we'll see. So it was my thinking was that normally in JavaScript, how would you add 2 plus 2 together? And you would just write 2 plus 2 with the operator, the plus, being between two 2's. In Reanimated, how you would do it is you would call a function called add and then put the 2 2's inside as arguments to the function. So you're actually writing the plus first and then the 2 2's together.
Yes.
And then if you nest it more, like sub 2 and then you add, divide, multiply, what you end up in the end with is an expression where all the operators are at the beginning and at the end you have maybe 5 closing parentheses in a row.
Yes, correct.
Which, in my opinion,
and then
I think this like
and
it
when
makes it less readable, right?
Yeah, and you need to refactor it. It's very difficult.
So I experienced this, and I was inspired by styled components and their template strings thing is, and what I made and still working on it, probably gonna release it next week, is something called Reanimated Formula. With Reanimated Formula, you can write formula, then put backticks in it, and then you can write 2 plus 2. And if you want to use a variable, then you can write 2 plus, then use like a placeholder within the string, with this dollar curly braces, and put that variable in it. So you write more natural math expressions. I think this might be helpful I think the longer the expression you have, the more helpful it is. If your current reanimated code looks like you have 6 closing parentheses in a row at the end of your expression, then I think this might help make it more readable.
Absolutely, and I think it's a very simple idea, but quite useful. And so you use basically, or is it called tagged string literal to implement this?
Exactly. Yeah, this is how it's called. I didn't even know what the correct name is for this technique, but how it works is you basically just define a function where the first argument is an array of strings and the second argument you get is an array of placeholders. And then you can just execute the function with backticks instead of parentheses.
Cool.
Yeah, interesting.
And I think, and especially if people watch the Canadian React Native series, like sometimes reanimated expressions can get really complex. And in fact, I saw you were rewriting some of the examples using formulas, which is pretty cool. And another, I think, benefit of using such libraries, if you are dealing with, because you are dealing with both animated values and numbers, sometimes I have so for instance, yesterday I had divide the function in reanimated and then and then something JavaScript divide something else. And then you refactor this, suddenly one value becomes, which was a number, becomes an animated value, boom, you get, plus you're not gonna get an elegant error message. If you do a divide of an animated value in JavaScript with some other value, you're gonna get some horrible crash red screen on React Native. Where if I would have used your library, then because it would have used the divide function everywhere, and this crash wouldn't have happened basically. And then, but on my side, I would have written everything using JavaScript operators basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I think like the error messages are sometimes. I think the error messages in my library are most of the time relatively useful. You know
the
what you did
was
wrong.
pretty good, yeah.
But then, and you have also immediately raised this concern when I first told you about the library, is that the disadvantage is that static typing is worse, because everything is a string. You don't see in your editor if you did something wrong. You only realize the error once you run it.
Which is the same dilemma that people have in styling community with these style component libraries and.
Exactly. Yeah. That I don't know if I will go the next step and make a like a VS Code plugin, ESLint plugin, or however it works.
Is that what people do for style components, or?
Yeah, I think there's like a styled plugin for ESLint, and it formats the CSS really nicely. It tells you if there's a wrong property, indentation, or and puts like syntax highlighting and autocomplete. You know, this is why I like CSS in JS.
Okay.
In the end, because they made the developer experience
really good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward for you to release the first version. I think you're pretty close to have a first version out. I mean, based on what you showed me, like, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I've written like, I've implemented like almost all of the 30 reanimated functions so that you can write them like this.
Crazy. 30.
And then today I tried it out. Like I said, okay, who has the most advanced reanimated formulas? So of course it's you. So I tried to rewrite some of your statements using reanimated formula, and it seems like I need to tweak some things regarding precedence to make and like really battle test it with all the different things. But I think you can look forward to a release in the next week or alpha.
Cool, that's exciting, and for sure we will link it to the video description.
Awesome.
And so what else are you working on?
So I'm working mostly on my own app. It's my two own apps. One is called AnySticker, which is also a React Native app, which allows you to send stickers to WhatsApp. WhatsApp has only recently added the sticker feature, I think.
Yes.
Apps like Telegram, etc., they had it much before. And the problem I identified was that if you want to publish a sticker pack to WhatsApp, then what you have to do is you have to make your own app and deep link into WhatsApp and send the stickers through that. So that means you have to download the template from WhatsApp, replace the images, compile the app, get it into the App Store, which apparently Apple is now also rejecting these apps because they are all using the template provided by WhatsApp. So you have to pay the $100 developer fee,
yes.
And then you have to do the same for Android.
Yes.
So if you just like to draw and make stickers, this seems really complicated to me. So what I am now doing is I'm making an app where you can just drag and drop your stickers in a web interface. Then you scan a QR code. The AnySticker app opens through using the React Native supports deep links also really well. And then I put the stickers into the clipboard, send it to WhatsApp, and instead of wasting so much time on trying to get the official process to work, you have published your stickers in just a few minutes. So This is.
So what do you do on your side? So you get the stickers. What do you do to make it work?
Well, how you add stickers to WhatsApp is just first you need to ensure that you have the correct image dimensions. It needs to be in PNG, has to have maximum size, needs to be square, needs to be exactly 512 pixels. And some other requirements are there as well. And then you just basically put it into the clipboard. And usually there are multiple clipboards. This is not so visible to the user. You put it into the clipboard at a specific key, and then you say, okay, WhatsApp, now open. And it will take the stickers out of the keyboard again. And this is how you add the stickers to WhatsApp in the end. So there's no need to have a separate app for each sticker pack. So I'm trying to collect all the sticker packs in my app.
Okay, cool. And it's WhatsApp, but also other apps. Or
Yeah, and then I go step by step. I make this. I allow to publish these stickers to WhatsApp, but I think Telegram also works, also works similarly, as well as Instagram, posting it onto your story, experimenting with that.
Okay. Cool.
And it all works really well. It's not an Expo project; it's a raw React Native project, and then you just put the Swift files and the Java files from Android, modify them a bit, and call them through native modules.
Okay, cool. So this is already released, but
no, it's gonna take a bit more time, maybe like 1 or 2 months. I would really want to polish this, and also I want to work on the business aspect of it. As I said in the beginning, I would like to, in the future, just make my own apps and say, okay, I run these apps as a business, so I don't have to freelance. I mean, I like. There's also benefits to being employed, but I'm young. I'm trying to chase the dream. I'm 24.
Wow, yeah, you are young.
So you have to give it a try. So I'm trying to make a sticker business using React Native.
And what's the second app you're working on?
So the second app is called Bestande. Okay. This was another app that I created out of my own needs because I was a student at the university in Zurich, and their IT thing was just not very good. They had no app, so I made an app which shows you your grades, your timetable, the food in the canteen. You can. This is how we started, and it got some traction. And then, because there were many users, we were also able to add more features like ratings. So now now the main feature of the app is mostly that you can rate your course at the university, and other people will see that. So now it has a few thousand ratings, and based on the data that we have, we can also kind of do some AI and suggest courses to people based on decisions that other people have made. So now we are kind of going to this direction. And this is also a React Native app. I think I started making the React Native app on the first day where they released React Native for Android.
Oh, really?
I heard of React Native.
And when was that? Which year was it?
That must have been like the end of 2015 or something, or beginning of 2016.
2016, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I heard of React Native.
It's crazy. So it hasn't been that long, actually. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. And like the ecosystem has already progressed so much. Only 3 years.
But also, yeah. because also in my head you say 2016 and it feels like yesterday, but I'm like, oh no, we're already 2019. But yeah, anyways.
But it really is not that long.
And so Bestanden, it means past in German, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So the
because I'm doing my German classes at the moment.
Very nice. Yeah, exactly. I called the app Bestande because the very initial idea was that you would take an exam at the university, and then you would have to log into a slow web portal, and you would do this like 10, 20 times a day all over again, and it was not mobile friendly at all. It was like not a good experience. So I said, okay, I'm gonna automate this and check every 15 minutes and then send a push notification to the user, hey, you have Bestande, you have passed.
Wow. So
That was the initial idea that started everything. But then too many people started using that app, and the university server crashed and they cut us off. Not my server crashed, but the university server. No,
cool.
I don't have that feature anymore.
So were you like studying computer science or?
Yeah, I was doing a bachelor in Wirtschaftsinformatik, so it's like computer science and economics. Okay. But you know, I like the practical aspect more, and there you really just like learn binary trees, how to start a red-black tree. And I like to make consumer apps, and it's really all of these data structures are anyway already abstracted, and I imported from Lodash, so I did not go to university further.
Cool. And so is it only used in University of Zurich at the moment, or is there like a plan to use set it up somewhere else? Or, but also you say you got cut off from the university, so how is it working now?
Yeah, the whole thing is a bit complicated.
Okay.
I expanded to a second university, the ETH, and there soon, as soon as 1,000 people started using it, and I think they also really liked it. Then the ETH itself, they came and said, oh, we don't like that, and they sent me a letter. So the app still works, you can still rate courses, but since I can't use the login anymore of the university, the popularity has fell off, kind of.
But so why they said, oh, we don't like that?
So I think I made a really smart solution where in the app you can log in with your account of the university, and then it calls the university server and gets all your data and timetable and grades, and all of that, all the requests are done locally on device, just with React Native fetch, and then it would handle the cookies and figure all of that out, and everything was stored locally. So, but they were still citing issues with privacy, and probably also because it was competing with their own app and they didn't know it, and I was just doing it. So yeah. Then I try out if it works, and at the University of Zurich this worked out really well, and now I think almost 12,000 users use the app. That's almost every second student at the university uses this React Native app.
Now the University of Zurich is completely on board with it, or?
Well, we have to see. I don't know.
Okay.
But
every other student is using it.
Yeah, every other student is using it, and because I just did it and said, here's the app, and now it has gotten some traction. It's gonna be hard for them to say, okay, there's you shouldn't do this.
Okay. And so on the open source side, do you work on other stuff or?
Yes, I think right now I'm on a hot streak, really.
Okay.
I really have a few ideas that I'm gonna put out very soon. One thing is this reanimated helper. The other thing that I'm doing is, by the way, all 3 projects that I'm working on, I think are interesting for the React Native community. One other thing I'm working on currently and will release soon is called React Native Normalized. This is a project I'm doing together with my friend Piyush. What problem I'm trying to tackle is to try to make the React Native components work more consistently between iOS and Android. So one very simple example is the React Native text component. If you just render a text in React Native, it is black on iOS and it is gray on Android. I think it works differently in Expo, but in pure React Native, the text has a different color. So this is one example where you would just import text from React Native normalized instead, and it would show the same color. And then we also make slightly adjusted components of text input and activity indicator. For example, these are some components which just look slightly different in React Native, and I think there are better defaults. So it's kind of like normalized.css. I don't know, do you know this?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Library. It's like just a default CSS style sheet, which makes it so that your CSS, like your website, looks kind of similar in the browser across different browsers. And this is kind of the same idea, but for React Native.
When you use views and text in React Native, there are some other inconsistencies, but some of them, I guess, are a bit harder to solve. I think about text, like the way the fonts are processed and so on is like completely different on iOS and Android. But here it's much more difficult to solve automatically these issues.
There was one really interesting specific issue in the text component from React Native I was just discussing yesterday with Piyush, because he has the OnePlus phone, and what happens is if you render a text as bold in React Native, the last word gets cut off. It looks very weird, and I've actually received this bug report twice before. Hey, instead of add to WhatsApp, it just says add to. It's like, why is this last word missing? Yeah, and I've like, wow.
But you mean like in a button or something, or in which context the word is missing?
Yeah, so what we think it is, what leads to the bug, is a combination of a few things. I think the text needs to be bold, needs to have no font family set, no default font family, and it needs to be in a view which has flex direction row. And it needs to be a OnePlus or Oppo phone. And under these circumstances, the last word just is invisible in React Native.
Even if you have enough space in the box to display the word. It has nothing to do with the layout of except for the flex direction.
Yeah, even if you have enough space. And it's like, on a Samsung, it works correctly. Wow. And I think like the underlying problem is because like OnePlus and Oppo, their firmware like really aggressively tries to apply their own font, system font, even if you try to set another font, and that leads to issues. So we have to investigate more, but this will also be a part of React Native Normalized, where you just use our version of text, and that should just work out of the box.
Cool.
And the last project of the 3 that I'm doing soon will help React Native developers to better understand what is in their bundle. I think there's a Metro visualizer. There's also a Webpack bundle analyzer, but I really tried. I could not get them to work.
You told me if the bundle is too big, this just to parse the bundle on like low-grade Android devices, this causes a problem. How did you how did you realize that this was the case, for instance?
So this Bestande app, I think it's like imported over 400 different files, and that made it really noticeable on a low-grade Android phone that the application is slow to start. And I figured out it has to do with the size of the bundle. You know, whenever you start the React Native application, everything has to be parsed. And if you really have a lot of files, then you have to wait before the application actually starts. So it's a good practice to use dead code, stripping, minifying, this import function. Like, try to make the initial bundle as small as possible, just like on the web. And with the library that I want to make is you just start the Expo or React Native packager, and then you type in a command. I don't yet know what it's going to be called. And then it uses some other library to download to visualize the source map of your React Native packager, the source map that your React Native packager serves you, and it tells you, okay, you 10% of your app is from moment.js or Lodash, and that helps you figure out how to make the bundle a bit smaller, hopefully.
Okay.
This is something that you can already do today, but so yeah, it's not like I invented this, of course, but I just want to make it one command. You start an Expo or React Native app, and then you use one command, and it tells you, okay, a lot of Lodash imports. Maybe you should not import sort from Lodash, but use Lodash/sort, for example.
But for instance, you try it on you mentioned it in the Bestande app. Have you tried it to analyze bundle dependencies? And
I've tried it out a little bit, but while the other 2 libraries are more or less done, ready for testing, I've not yet had the time to use the library myself, although I know that it's going to work.
Okay.
Almost for sure.
Cool. And last time we met, you were working on a running app.
Yeah, so this is really cool that I found a client who was willing to say who was willing to give me money to work on a React Native apps that I can manage myself. I just have to deliver a working app, and it's going to be a run tracker written in React Native, also with Reanimated animations, countdown, etc. This much I can say about this app, I would say.
All right. And yeah, that was pretty spooky because I posted on Twitter a picture of my setup where I do the YouTube videos, and just based on the window, you mapped out pretty precisely where I lived. That was pretty crazy.
It's such a coincidence that he lives like 500 meters from where I work, and sometimes I go out for a run, and so I know the region. And he posted a picture out of his window, and I knew, wow, I know this place. Big coincidence.
That's funny. But that's also a pretty interesting story how you met with your partner for the running app, actually.
Yeah. It's all pretty random, to be honest. Like, I don't look out for clients or stuff to do, but so far in my short freelancing career, it has really happened all a bit randomly. So how that happened, how I got the client, is that it started when I posted a YouTube video of me running every day. This is a challenge that I have to just run every day.
So you still do it?
I still do it, okay. And I think I'm now at over 1,100 days. So last November I posted a video running 1,000 days in a row. So that was kind of my highlight video, not of every day, but of many days to celebrate this milestone. A newspaper picked that one up, Switzerland, and said, wow, Jonny, he's running 1,000 days in a row. And then some guy read that, and in the article I also said, I am a app developer. And then he said, I really want you to do a running app. And this is how I got my client.
But that's amazing. And but you say, it's random, but it's not so random. Like, it's luck, but also you're pushing your luck, right? Like you create your luck. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I find it to be really interesting, actually.
I think as long as you like post about stuff that you do, that's really the best thing that you can do, because then you create more opportunities. And this is also how we met, because we just
via Twitter. And
because
also I created my luck. Yeah, exactly, because I did like some YouTube videos, so I also created some luck. Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. Cool. And so this project is going well, and
this project is now in a friends and family beta test.
Okay.
Cool. I'm struggling a little bit because there's also like a native side of the app, and then I call it through native modules, and I use this Expo background location, which is still a bit experimental, and then sometimes it leads to crashes.
Yes, I remember you posted a lot of stuff. I mean, some stuff related to this on Twitter. Yeah. It's funny because we talk, and now I have because I often see your tweets, and now your tweets start to connect the dots just based on our conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay. And so done in TypeScript?
I use TypeScript for now. I use it for everything.
Expo detached.
Expo detached. Yeah, I think Expo detached is the perfect combination.
Okay. and so you said you need to use some native functions and. So it's supposed to. Expo background location is supposed to work just out of the box, but I realized I had to patch some small things or tweak some things a little bit, and I also had to eject the Expo app in order to get background text to speak to work. That's normally if you lock your screen on your phone, and then from a background thread call the text-to-speech. Does not work on iPhone, but it's really not
that big of a deal. You can just eject your Expo app and patch it manually.
And so you have some experience building these apps which have like also a native component to them. Do you use some continuous integration or?
Yeah, totally. My choice at the moment is Circle CI. It's like
Cool.
probably not perfect, but
I mean, I think it's pretty good. It's just pretty expensive, I guess, or I don't know.
Yes, so you need a Mac to build the iOS apps, and I think they cost you like $40 a month.
Okay, is that what you're paying? At the
And
moment, or?
that is what I'm paying at the moment, and I feel like
It's not
it's
too dramatic.
it's not too dramatic, especially if you have multiple projects, and I feel like it is really worth it. And then it takes a lot of configuration. It's not easy, and you know, if you like change your configuration, then you only get feedback whether it worked or not like after 10 minutes. It's like you build and then upload, and you say you tweak something with the uploads thingy, you push, and then you only realize after 15 minutes, oh shit, I made a typo, that doesn't work. So it takes a lot of time to set up. But unless it's broken by a change by Apple or something, I pretty much have all my apps configured that I make a git commit, and then on Circle CI I have some trigger buttons where I can trigger an iOS or an Android build. I don't really want to trigger a build for every commit.
Yeah.
And if I trigger this, it clones the repo, builds it, either using Expo or React Native. So that's, I both got figured out, and then uploads it to App Store Connect and the Play Store in one build. I think this is really nice, especially because if I run it on my own laptop, then it uses so much CPU to build a React Native iOS app that you cannot work during that time, right? So I resort this to continuous integration. Would definitely recommend doing that.
Cool. Awesome. All right, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank you as well.
for being here.
It was a really cool conversation.
Cool.
I hope we get to talk again soon, and
Yeah,
I think
hopefully.
we will have still lots of things to talk about afterwards.
Absolutely. Cool. All right. See you guys. Ciao.
Bye bye.